Every year I assign myself 4 projects, 2 nonfiction and 2 novellas. This year, due to unforeseen technology problems and difficulty getting set up as my developmentally disabled adult son's caretaker, I'm not getting to the projects in exactly the order or time frame that I originally intended. January saw the release of the second edition of my corrected King James Bible, and October saw my first novella of the year, Trouble with Telepaths. With November, I'm releasing the second in my Forgotten Hero trilogy. Forgotten Hero began life as a writing exercise. Create a story written mostly in the second person, and make it make sense that the story is told from that point of view. Those of you that read the first part know how I accomplished this. Chris McKnight, the hero of the story, was a 17-year-old that took down the serial killer Crimson years ago. Crimson was an elf, and unfortunately whenever humans interact with elves, they forget everything from that interaction immediately when they turn away. The story is told in 3 parts. Part 1, which was released last year, was the beginning of the story as Jewel remembered it from her grade school and middle school history and social studies lessons. Jewel is 18 now, but that means that she still wasn't even born at the time the events took place. Now, in Part 2, you get to hear the story as it is remembered by her mother, Doris, who actually had to listen to the news and read the papers, hoping that the serial killer wouldn't target her and her family. The story has a setup for each character meeting Chris, and then the main story is them telling him what they know. Other than Jewel, the characters meet Chris in intermissions to the story. Part 2 has 2 intermissions, one that serves as a prologue between Jewel's telling and Doris's telling, and then at the end an epilogue before Part 3, which I hope to release next year. With this announcement, I'm going to break my tradition of including only 1 excerpt from the story, and I'm going to include one from the first intermission and one from the second. I drove to Jewel's mom's house as carefully as I could. Along the way, I was passed by 2 fire trucks and an ambulance, but I managed to keep just enough focus to get to the house. I ran to the door and knocked, clinging desperately to the fading image of Jewel laughing with me at the restaurant. Then Jewel opened the door. "Thank goodness," she said, dragging me into the house. Then she called out, "Mom, Chris is here. You can get out the plates now." I wound through the living room, a dining room, and then to the door of the kitchen. Jewel's mom was pulling dishes out of a cupboard. "Honestly, Jewel, I will never understand your taste in men, or should I say boys. Never anyone that's emotionally available, and now a human." Jewel's mom turned around with a stack of plates in hand, looked me in the face, and then dropped the whole stack on the ground. "You're Chris McKnight." I smiled. "Yes, as a matter of fact, I am." She just stared at me for a moment, then started stammering like she was trying to say something, which eventually turned into another round of, "You're Chris McKnight. Should I get a broom?" I asked. Jewel's mom just shook her head. "No, I have a wand," she explained, tapping her pockets one after another. I saw the wand on the counter and pointed to it. "Is that it?" She looked, then started nodding quickly. "Yes, that's it." She picked it up and was about to tap the counter when she stopped. Would you?" She held out the wand with the crystal tip pointing towards her. I felt a bit unsure. "I'm not sure I remember how," I said, putting my hands in my pockets. She nodded. Of course. She tapped the counter, and the shards of dishes flew back to the cupboard and reassembled. "I'm sorry. I've just never had anyone like you in my house before." I smiled. "Yeah, I think I'd remember meeting you." It took her a moment to catch up to the joke, but then she started laughing. Yes, you would. Indeed and for sure. Can't forget me." She turned back to the cupboard, grabbed the plates, and took them to the table. She kept looking at me, smiling, then going back to setting the table. I turned to Jewel. Now that I've met your mother, where is this sister you've gone on and on about? Star couldn't make it tonight, I'm afraid, said the mother. Then she stopped. Jewel, you didn't tell Star what she's missing. Jewel looked sheepish. I know, Mom. Don't you tell her either. I want it to be a surprise. The look on her mom's face could skin a buffalo. Are you trying to kill your sister? I don't think she could take that kind of shock. No, Mother. I just think that it will be better if it's a surprise. I decided to step into the conversation. Ma'am, if I may, would Star believe you, or would she think it's a practical joke? The woman looked thoughtful for a moment, then replied simply, Call me Doris, and stuck out her hand for me to shake. I took her hand and shook it strongly. Doris, don't you think your daughter would enjoy a little bit of a surprise? She sighed. If you weren't you. Then her head bobbed left and right. Then again, if you weren't you, then I wouldn't have this problem. Her eyes fixed on mine. Fine. You two win. Let's have dinner, and then we will arrange something with Star another night. Star's birthday rolled around, and we made our plan of attack. I took the day off work, then went to Doris's house. They decided to tell Star that they had arranged an interview for her about her master's thesis after cutting cake. I told them I wasn't sure how that would go, seeing as the thesis was almost 15 years old, but they assured me that it would work. Then I hid in Doris's bedroom while they had Star's party. This was the perfect vantage to hear everything that went wrong. I don't know if it was nerves or bad luck, but the whole party went from disaster to disaster. First, the dinner that Doris was cooking fell off the counter onto the floor. While Doris could reset the dishes, that didn't help restore the food that was now strewn across the kitchen. So they ordered pizza to make it up. Except somehow their pizza order got switched with someone else. While they were trying to get the pizza situation figured out, the cake that Doris was cooking burned. Then it was time to introduce her to me. We've arranged for someone to interview you about your master's thesis, Doris said, trying to keep the spirits up. By now, Star was pretty grumpy though. Who? She asked. Why would someone be interested in my thesis after all these years? Is it a script writer trying to make another movie about Crimson? Because, Mom, I love you, but if that's it, I'll pass. Doris tried again. No, darling. It's not a professional. Star groaned. Mom, why would I want to talk about that dumb thing with some plebeian? I'm a professional historian now, Mom. I enjoy talking about history, but I'm over that part. Something in Doris's tone shifted. I guess now it was time to really lean into the grump of her daughter. Oh, Star, don't get all bent out of shape about it. He's a human. Star really let loose now. A human, Mom? So now I'm going to do what I do all day for work, except instead of talking about new stuff I'm uncovering, I'll be taking about stuff I haven't cared about in over a decade with some stupid and useless human. And then to top it all off, he's not going to remember a word of it 10 minutes after he leaves. And somehow, this is what you thought I needed for my birthday. Mom, I'm done. Just get rid of him and I'll go home. I'm over this birthday. Doris just clucked her tongue. Star, baby, I've put up with a lot of complaining and negative attitude from you this evening. I've put a lot of work into arranging this. So you're going to go into that living room and you're going to sit down and close your eyes while I bring our guest out. Star didn't like the sudden infantilizing. Mother, I am not a child. You can't just order me around like that. Star, I am your mother and I can and will order you around as much as I want whenever I want. Now get your butt into that living room, sit your butt down, and close your eyes. Star started yelling. Why? Why, Mother? Is it someone famous? Some famous human that wants to know all about Crimson for some reason? Doris raised her voice as well. Of course it's someone famous. That's why you're going to get in there and close your eyes and wait patiently. I guess Doris won the screaming match, because the next thing was about 3 minutes later Doris opened her bedroom door. Come on, but don't say anything. She would recognize your voice. I sat across from Star, who was sitting in one of the kitchen chairs that had been brought into the living room. My chair was straight across from her. I sat down and leaned forward. Doris gave the word, and Star's eyelids slowly lifted so we could make eye contact. Her face went so pale, I thought her disguised tiara had fallen off or something. She tried to speak, but the words didn't work. I just nodded. I decided to lean into the bad birthday vibe. Hi. I'm sorry. I heard everything from your mother's room. I totally understand you not wanting to tell some stupid and useless human all about Crimson. I'll just go home. But it was nice meeting you. If she could have gone paler, she would have. Instead, she started to cry. Jewel put her arm around her sister's shoulder. No, Star, it's okay. He's joking. He's not going to leave. I reached out my hand and Star latched onto it like it was a lifeline. You promise? She squeaked between sobs. You promise to stay? I nodded with a smile. I'm sorry. I heard everything. I know you've had a lousy birthday. I'd like to make it better. Star snuffed, then wiped her tears. Okay,